Welcome to the OpenJ9 community call for June 28th. Please remember to add your name and company affiliation to the minutes so we can track who's been attending. And if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up at the beginning right now, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll continue with the agenda. I don't think we have a lightning talk today. There's one coming up for Valhalla. See Lan on the call. For Valhalla CRIU feature testing. Okay, so we'll take a look at the user issues. There was a new one that just came in a couple of hours ago, which I haven't had a chance to look at yet.
I'm going to ask Marius to look at that one.
Great, thank you. Other than that, I think we've seen all the rest. So that takes us to 033. So we've moved some of the issues out to 034, things that we don't think we'll get to. We might be moving some more of these out. I think Beryl had a list that was shared privately of ones we'd like to fix and ones we're still looking at. I know we have a couple of PRs created, merged already at the head stream. PRs created against the 033 branches that are ready to merge. So what I'd like to see is anything that's getting into this release to be merged this week before the weekend, so it can go through weekend testing, and then next week we'll be starting the milestone 2 official testing for Semaru. If changes can't get in before that, then I think they're going to have to wait till the next release.
Okay, that's understood. I'll have some feedback on the ones that are on the cusp of being deferred to see whether or not that is something we want to push out, and then I'll push the button on the 233 ones that already have PRs, and once 15393 is merged into head, then we'll get that created for 33 as well.
Okay,
hopefully merge that by Thursday.
Sorry, say that again?
And then merge that one by Thursday, that you said.
Okay. Well, it could be merged Friday or even Saturday, but probably nobody would be working those days.
This one, 14.2.43, I think it can be moved out because it's mostly, like, practically only failed on Mac M1. And we know what problem is. It was observed on ARM Linux and Z Linux like twice in the last 2 years. But I don't think this is a regression, really.
I thought it was happening on ARM very often.
On ARM M1.
Yeah.
On Mac. And we know what it is. So we're
Okay.
just looking for best fix, but we are not targeting Mac M1 in 033, right?
So I'll just move this out to 034. I think that's, or 035.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to move it to?
I don't know, for Java 19, I guess. Which one it is?
Yeah, 034 is Java 19. Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess the other possibility is if there's any of these that we think need to get in regardless of our milestone 2, are worth delaying the release for, then we should hear about that. I think we've already discussed that none of these are regressions that we haven't had for quite some time, so it didn't sound like anything needs to block the release. So let's see, M2 starting around July 5th, maybe the 6th. Yeah, that takes us to 034 Java 19. See where we're at. So 66 issues. Yeah, from last week. I have been going through and unexcluding some of the things that don't seem to fail anymore and fixed a few problems. A lot of work going on in Loom. I don't know if there's anything that we need to talk about specifically for 034 other than the things we have coming up in the agenda. So I think we could just move on to Project Loom. And is Jack on the call?
Yes, Pete.
Do you want to take Loom?
Yeah. So for Loom, I have the June 24th deadline on basic virtual thread support. Currently it's delayed a bit as I just got the PR under review, so I'm still addressing some of the review comments and making sure there's no further concerns from the reviewers before it gets merged. It should be done this week. I've deferred the next date for full virtual threads implementation support by a week to July 14th due to the upcoming holidays. That we're probably going to lose about 3 to 4 days with people going on vacation. Other than that, I've had some update from GC on Lynn's work to support Loom in GC. He is working on an initial draft to have basic functional support for common cases, and they will do a second round changes to have the full support ready. I believe the minimum functional support should come in either end of this week or early next week. And that's it from my side.
Do you have a new estimate for the basic virtual thread support?
I'm hoping it should be done this week. I can update the date as well.
Just change it to the 30th right now. And then if it's not looking good, can you please put in a new date for next week?
Yep, will do.
Panama, Cheng, do you have an update on Panama?
Basically, in terms of APCO, I think I already submitted everything, including OpenGNL, OpenGDK, PRs, code review. So everything is still in progress. About updating changes against the comments. And is there anything about JIT in terms of sound generation code, Dara?
Still being worked on by Konasan and myself on AR64 and x86. Groove, I think, was still testing earlier this or late last week. I don't have the latest on that, but I know he was working through last issues with that. So I think he might be close on Z. The x86 and the the x86 and the AR64 work is likely going to be in early to mid July timeframe, just given the pace that it's going right now.
Is there anything else for Panama or anything for Java 19? Do we have anyone to give updates for Adopt? Nope. So machine updates? Adam?
So a few things. We lost our A Linux at OSU accidentally. Not our fault, but so those are gone. Well, we can get them back fairly easily. We just have to get some time to roll them out from the snapshot that we took.
Did we find out what happened?
A student was cleaning up another project and accidentally deleted ours. So they were talked to, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Luckily, it was the A Linux and not the P Linux, because P Linux is where we have our Jenkins and our Artifactory, so that would have hurt. So yeah, we can roll them back out fairly easily. Just hadn't got around to it yet, but we could probably going to want to do that before we switch over the A Linux at Equinix. So that's the previous point. So Joe has been working on setting up the new KVM images on the new machine at Equinix. So he's ready to switch over. He needs some downtime to move the IPs over. So it'd be nice to get the A-Linux at OSU back just in case the ones at Equinix go pancake. But he was planning on doing that Friday anyways when it's fairly idle. So we should be able to get the OSU ones back before then. Sorry, did you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. The Windows machines, we are having firewall issues, so a lot of us still playing around with those, but it sounds like we're just going to disable it for the active checking, and it'll just be like a periodic checking. So that seems to have solved the issues we were seeing. And Joe has also been doing the Mac upgrades, so I think he's ready to switch over from Mac 10.14 to 10.15 for the compiles and Xcode 12.4. So I think those are ready to go whenever we're ready for that. And then Artifactory, there was a disk fill up late last week due to some failures. So we were going to try and go through and clean some stuff up. I ended up doing an accidental cleanup, so it brought us way down to 72%. But we were going to add a grinder cleanup job because right now the grinders are 25 days. They get picked up by the 25-day cleanup. So we're going to reduce those to 7 days. But that needs a little bit of work adjustments to the existing script in order to make that happen. But less priority now that we have space. So I think that's about it. Questions?
I do have a concern about the Windows machines. They seem to be going offline quite often.
The existing ones?
Yeah. When we reboot them and then they don't come back.
Okay.
So I've been renaming them to get them to come back, but on the weekends when nobody's looking at them,
Right.
we could end up not having enough machines to get through our testing.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a bug in Jenkins with that. It doesn't seem to like it when we do those reboots. Because like you say, we end up renaming the node and then it magically starts coming back. So it's like the communication is paused or something. Maybe it just doesn't like the way we're doing it through the API. We can have a think about that though.
Are you around this weekend? Maybe I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Just if there's somebody who was able to just check the machines and rename them if they're offline so we can get through our testing.
Are we opposed to disabling the sanitize on the Windows?
I don't know if that's better or worse. If we
Okay.
disable the sanitize, then we might not be able to run testing either.
Okay. I'll talk to you offline.
So there's something going on in the headstream that I should bring up. So Thursday night, we started getting a lot of failures, and we identified one problem, and I backed that out. And then Friday night, we were out of disk space, so we didn't get any runs. So our next set of testing was last night, and we're still getting failures in concurrent scavenger testing on A-Linux, A-Mac, AIX, and P-Linux. I think they're all crashes. And I'm racking my brains trying to figure out what change caused them, and I'm not having a lot of luck. But I'm working through the changes, doing builds, and trying to narrow down what's causing these crashes.
Where's the crash, Pete? At runtime?
Yeah, at runtime. So you can see an example on the screen now. You can get multiple crashes. The ones last night tend to look like the second one that I'm showing now, at least in the one platform I looked at. I'm just not seeing any change that looks like it would cause this kind of thing. There was an OMR change I wasn't sure about, but I backed it out and I'm still getting crashes. Although I left the other change that we already knew was problematic in. So I'm trying again with an earlier level, and I'll keep reverting back changes until I figure out what's causing it. But if you want to look at what changed, the details are in this issue, which right now is the first issue in the list. There's a bunch of OMR changes and only two, sorry, a bunch of OpenJ9 changes and only two OMR changes. Devin, about CMake. I know you put
Yeah.
I know you
Go
put a
ahead.
change into the headstream to enable CMake for cross compilation,
Yep.
but that was only done for a known set of platforms. I'm wondering if we should refactor how that's done and just turn on CMake all the time for every platform, even if we don't know about the platform.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I've opened up that change in 8 and 11 and working through the other backports, and then I'll come back around to the head stream to also disable that platform check.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else to say about CMake?
No, nothing else.
And we don't have Marius. Toby? We have Toby.
Yeah, the only thing to highlight is there's the second early access was released last week. So it's got a bunch of new security support for CRU, as well as some time-related changes to address checkpoint and restore behaviors for certain APIs like time or Java util timer. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are you working up to another early access build?
Yeah, we're planning to do another one in July. The goal there is to get some more support for addressing time-related things between checkpoint and restore. There's I think there's a performance regression with looking at key stores from a security side. So hoping to get that in as well. And one of the major things is we'd like to add JVM support to address some common deadlock cases. So these are cases where the checkpoint thread is attempting to acquire a resource held by a halted thread. There's certain APIs that, not APIs, but certain paths in the VM, like method handle resolution or initializing different encodings that can trigger this. So we have a solution that we believe will work to basically prevent the deadlock scenario so it doesn't occur.
Okay, thanks. That's it for CRA.
Yep.
Daryl, is there anything to say about Mac M1?
Not really this week. We're just working on stabilizing some of the issues. We've been having some problems with shared classes lately. A lot of the problems seem to be revolving around that, but we're not really sure why those problems have come up recently. So that's it.
So these are problems with,
Various tests in with shared classes enabled.
okay, I don't recall seeing anything in the builds we're running in the open, so that they only happen internally or they happen in private builds, or
They're run somewhere. They're not personal builds, that's for sure. They are opened by
Jason?
yeah, so
Okay, so they're in the internal builds.
yeah. Anyway, we're getting a handle on those.
Okay, sounds good. And any other business? Otherwise, next call is next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pete.